Welcome to From Potential to Powerhouse, Success Secrets from Female Leaders, where female trailblazers share their journeys and the aha moments that made all the difference. With your host, serial entrepreneur and trailblazer herself, Tracy Holland.
I'm going to introduce you to Richelle Parham, who is both on the corporate side and has had an incredible career at companies like Citibank and Visa and eBay, and is now on the investing side. And she's going to share a little bit about her journey in the corporate world, as well as how she's impacting finance and investing for companies and small businesses. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. This is so fun.
So fun. I'm so thrilled to have you. So when we talk to women who have made such an impact, and I can't wait to dive into your career, especially at eBay. Mm-hmm. When I first met you, I'll never forget, over lunch, hearing your background and your story. I was blown away because you have had such an incredible career. But I would love to hear just from the beginning, when you were, a little girl and kind of growing up, were you a rancorous, rule breaker? Or were you the rule follower? Or talk to us about your personality type.
Such a great question. No one's ever asked it that way. So It's so fun. So I went to a private girls' school from kindergarten to 12th grade.
Oh, my. You didn't see a boy once.
Well, we had a brother school across the street, and when you got into the upper school, you took classes with the boys. Okay. But for the most part, I was with girls every day for 13 years, and I wore a uniform and the whole bit. And so I had that rigor in that discipline. Yeah. But I would also say that I was someone who liked to draw outside the lines. So I was a bit of a rule follower as it relates to getting stuff done and all of that. But I was the one who cut all my hair off, or who got demerits because I wore the uniform wrong, or so I was always kind of showing my creative flair, my creative energy. I was a girly girl, and then I wasn't. Right. And so I loved to make mud pies. Okay. But I also played with Barbies. And I loved Barbie. I played with Barbie for, probably a little longer than most girls play with dolls. And just because I loved being able to go to a different world and to dress her in these beautiful clothes. And I would make these beautiful homes for her. And I would draw the houses out. I would get like graph paper and draw these big, beautiful houses for Barbie. And so, I lived in this world of the rigor and the straight and narrow, but also the creative flair that went on top of it.
So were you one of how many kiddos?
Just me.
You were a single child?
Yes.
So was that a blessing or a curse?
I think it was a blessing. I feel like I was just so blessed to have just great parents who loved me, and my mom just always wanted a daughter, and so that was amazing. But I came from a big family. I have lots of cousins. On my mom's side, I have 22 first cousins and 21 second cousins. Wow. And on my dad's side, I have a lot of cousins. So we had that house that everyone came to. So my mom just made everything so fun. She was a single mom, and so we had everything. I had a great room, and we had great stuff in the backyard, and so we had the house that everyone wanted to come and hang out in. So I always had company. So as much as I was an only child, I always had someone to play with.
Wow. So mom got you into, was your all-girls school private?
Yes.
And it was a parochial school?
Not parochial, just independent.
Independent, okay.
Mm-hmm. It's called Bryn Mawr School for Girls.
Was it where, here? Baltimore. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I remember East Coast. Okay, yes. So this is all making sense. So when you were growing up and single mom working, were you a latchkey kid?
Not really. I guess there were times when I was home by myself, but my mom worked. My mom was a professional, and so I got to see her as this professional woman. She dressed up every day. She was always very sharp and very stylish, and she was the boss. And so I got to watch my mom in action as the boss, which was probably really empowering for me. Sure. The other thing is my mom's a cemeterian. Right. And so, that's a tough industry. And one of the things that she does so well is just cares for families. Right. In their toughest time. Right. And so that's, I think, how I learned this notion of customer service and how do you really understand what your customer is going through and really help them through it. Like, so she was instrumental in really who I am today, particularly as a professional woman.
I bet. Yeah. I remember my mom, always professional, always driven, dressing up in the morning, going in and watching her get dressed.
Yes.
You know, knowing that she had to go to work. There was something about that for me. I don't know if that felt, because you played with Barbies, it's reminding me of, you know, dressing up and looking at how professional she was. And I mean, she really owned it, right? Walking out the door. And I never knew any differently. I didn't know that a lot of kids had moms who stayed home at that time.
Well, and frankly, for the school I went to, I'd say a good chunk of the girls, their moms stayed home. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so it was definitely different. And, you know, my mom did well, but we weren't, you know, uber wealthy, but I went to school with some of the wealthiest girls in Baltimore. And so, you know, just living in these different worlds and growing up where I did and how I did, but still going to the church that my mom grew up in. And so I got to experience a lot of different lifestyles and experiences, and I think that helped me, really. You know, I like to say, you know, I learned how to go from the White House to the projects and be able to be comfortable in all of those scenarios.
Amazing.
And so I, again, attribute that to my mom and to my family, and just kind of keeping us centered and grounded and around kind of what the possibilities are. And those possibilities are vast.
Yeah. So as a young woman, were you leaning more creative were you more creatively leaning or more finance logic leaning, or a combination?
I am a combination. So when I went to Drexel in Philadelphia, and I was started in the business school, and so I was a marketing major, and so very kind of left brain, right brain, right? I would, you know, do all of my my economics homework or my analytics homework. I was a statistics tutor. Like, I was very math, a very numbers driven person. But on the flip side, I did all my co-ops in New York working for Valentino, and so I ended up entering the design school at Drexel as well. And so I do all of this like very analytical business homework when I got in from school, and then I'd be up all night long doing design projects.
Whoa.
And so I ended up graduating from Drexel with a degree from the business school and one from the design school.
Whoa.
Yeah. So
I had no idea.
Well, and you know,
I'm not surprised.
Well,
because you always look so impeccable. You have such great taste. You know what I mean? So I'm not surprised, but I didn't know you were. So were you designing clothes, like patterns, or designing?
No. So I was never a designer. I took fashion design classes.
Yeah.
But I was more like marketing and merchandising.
Got it.
So, you know, I always wanted to be on the business side of fashion.
Interesting.
I never wanted to be a designer. I've designed. I had a sewing machine. I could sew and all that, but I really wanted to be on the business side of fashion.
And so did you work with for Valentino in New York?
I worked for Valentino, Miss V in studio in New York. It was the best. So I was there for 3 6-month co-ops, and I had a clothing allowance.
Oh my God!
You know, they don't pay you. You know, the fashion industry is notorious for paying nothing. Like, they don't pay you very well at all.
Right.
But you have great clothes, so I looked stunning and beautiful every day in my Valentino, and you know, it's just this great life. I really enjoyed that experience and meeting these women who I'd never met women like this before. You know, I had this one woman, I actually reconnected with her recently. Her name was Wendy, and she worked with us in Valentino, and we were supposed to wear Valentino. But when we weren't in market, she always wore Chanel. And she is the reason that I love Chanel.
Interesting.
And so she just was so stunning and beautiful, and she wore head to toe Chanel, and I was like, what? I just didn't even understand it. Like, my mom was an incredible dresser, but she wasn't wearing Chanel.
Of course.
And I just fell in love with this idea of couture and these like just very well made and very tailored looks, and just the beauty of the elegance and the femininity, but also like the edge. And so that was kind of my, I loved fashion growing up. I was a very fashionable teenager, even though I wore a uniform. When I wasn't in uniform, as people would say to me,
right.
"Oh, you always dress so out there." Like,
right.
I don't know what that means, but I knew that I was gonna continue my journey in fashion in some way, whether it's what I had on or in the career that I had.
So were you feeling at that stage of your life, did you feel through college encouraged by your peers and encouraged by the professors and the people that you spent time with? Did you think, oh, the sky's the limit, I can do anything I want? Or did you have this feeling like, this is going to be a tough road, or I'm not very smart, or, that for me was a biggie, right? Like, I never thought I could be as smart as the other kids. It wasn't until I started getting A's and getting really good grades in a competitive school environment that I thought for the first time, maybe I am smart compared to the other people and my peers.
So I was trained that I could be whatever I wanted to be.
By mom?
By my mom, from school. I think that private school, all-girls environment really teaches you how to be a leader. It teaches you that your voice matters and that it can be heard. And it teaches you that you can be whatever you want to be. And so I never felt like I had limitations.
Right.
When I got to college, though, I felt like the world just kept opening up for me, but there was no one else doing what I was doing. I was the first person at Drexel to graduate with a degree from the business school and from the design school. So it wasn't that there was a path that was created for me. I was just taking design classes.
Right.
And when I looked up, all of a sudden I had enough credits to have a degree.
Right.
But I wasn't like setting out to be a dual major.
Right.
It just happened. But no one really understood what I was doing. I didn't understand what I was doing, but I was committed to doing it.
Right.
And I knew that I was on a path, but I was doing stuff that was different from everyone else. I got my own co-op job. One of my good friends growing up, her brother worked for Giorgio Armani, which was also owned by this company GFT that we worked for. He's the person that helped me to get my co-op job. I didn't get my co-op job through the school, which is how most people got their co-op job. And so I always kind of did it a little different.
Right.
And owned my own path, frankly.
So you were bullish, like, I can do anything I want at that stage.
Yeah, but I didn't know. I wasn't saying those things.
Right.
I was just doing.
Right.
I was just
I get
in
you.
action.
Right.
I wasn't like, I can do whatever I want. It wasn't that. It was like, okay, I want to get this done. I want to get this done, and I was just on a path.
Right. And so at that time, how did you leave how did you graduate and leave school and then think about the next steps of your career? Were you I'm so fascinated as to how you ended up at eBay, especially when eBay was in the stage that it was in.
Yeah. So.
And the role you got, and you built this whole incredible business there. So I want to understand, at that stage, did you know what you wanted in terms of your career path? Were you I'm thinking corporate, or were you thinking, I really love this business with Valentino and I want to continue to be in the fashion world?
So the thing about being on a path is the path isn't always going straight.
Right, never.
It's not always going forward. Sometimes it goes backwards, sometimes it goes sideways.
Yeah.
Well, mine very quickly went sideways and probably a bit backward.
Okay.
And so I graduated from college during the recession.
Okay.
So that amazing job at Valentino that they promised me completely dried up.
Wow.
So I moved back to Baltimore and I got a job working for Citicorp Telemarketing Services. I worked in a call center on the phones.
Wow. And tell me about that.
Well, you know what?
What did it teach you?
It taught me that no matter what, I still had bills to pay.
Sure.
I needed a job, and it was an opportunity, and I took it.
Sure.
And did it feel a bit like I was overqualified or stepping back? Probably. But frankly, it was one of the best things that could have happened to me. So I was on the phone for 4 months. I got promoted, and then I was managing my team, and then I was managing multiple teams, and then I got an opportunity to do an internship at the bank, and that brought all of my marketing and my merchandising skills as well as my call center skills together. That was super cool. Then I got an opportunity to be on the retail banking side, selling second mortgages. I was one of the youngest officers of the bank. That was a big deal. And then I got a phone call from a guy who was kind of like, I was going to say mentor, but he wasn't. He was just someone who paid attention. I would call him a sponsor. So what I realize now when I look back on my life, I had a lot of sponsors and I had no mentors. And so just people who paid attention and thought I was smart and gave me another opportunity.
Interesting.
And so he called me up. He was... his name is Galen. He was in Boston working for this ad agency called Bronner Schlossberg Humphrey. And he said, you know what? We need teleservices experts. You're a teleservices expert.
Yeah.
And so, I interviewed for this company and ended up working there in their teleservices group. And I was in that group for 2 years. I was on the AT&T business. I was on the American Express business. And then it was late 96 and this crazy time, this thing called the Information Superhighway World Wide Web.
Yeah.
And we started a digital agency.
Wow.
And it was called Strategic Interactive Group. And
as in like an entrepreneur within that organization or outside the organization?
So our company, Bronner Schlossberg Humphrey, a couple of the partners spun out and started an agency that focused on the internet.
Wow.
But this is 1996, like early
Right.
days. Actually, it started in 95. I joined it in late 96.
Wow.
And I remember getting this offer, being excited to do it, and my friends who were back at the the mothership at Bronner were like, that internet thing will never take off. They're strange. They don't wear shoes.
Right.
Like you're going to lose your job. It's going to be terrible.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, but it's new. It's fresh.
Yeah.
It feels like the future.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to take the risk.
Right.
So I took the risk.
And
it huge for me in my career.
Huge.
I mean, I had a meteoric rise at that point because it was so new and we were breaking new ground. AT&T was my first client. I built att.com. I built Motorola.com, and these are the first e-commerce sites for these companies. Built a bunch of IBM websites. I mean, just crazy. So we were building these sites. Then we had this crazy idea that we could actually drive people to these sites. So the early days of banner campaigns and affiliate networks. And then we said, what if instead of using email for your statement, what if we used it as a marketing tool? So the early days of content management systems and these templatized structures and it was crazy. Like we were testing and learning our way into building e-commerce.
were you the only woman in the room a lot of times?
No, there were a few women.
Okay.
Absolutely, and women leaders too at that point.
Good.
But I was definitely the only person of color.
Wow.
Absolutely.
And so what did that feel like at that time? Were you thinking, okay, obviously you had enough momentum at that stage of your business career to see you're working with the likes of AT&T. Like, that's a validator, right?
I worked at AT&T. I would fly to Basking Ridge, New Jersey on Monday, and I'd sit in my client's office with her Monday through Thursday, and then I'd fly back home on Friday.
Whoa.
Like, yeah, I was in it. But,
That's incredible.
From kindergarten to 7th grade, there were 2 black girls, me and one other, my friend Gabby. And then from 8th grade to 12th grade, I was the only black girl in my class.
And how did you remember feeling at that time about that?
Didn't ever think about it.
It didn't even
I'd been there since kindergarten.
Right. It was like family.
I graduated with 13 girls that I'd known since kindergarten.
Right.
I actually was in a text message with one of them 2 days ago.
Wow.
That I've known since kindergarten.
I love that. I have friends like that. I love.
My dad says, like, how are you still friends with everyone? But that's, I graduated with 40 some girls.
Yeah.
Like, so we were all very close. We still are.
Right.
And so I was used to being the only one in the room, so that never was a spark for me. That wasn't that wasn't a concern.
Mm-hmm. And so, in that point in your life, how old were you when you were flying around and spending time with AT&T and building out the first .com?
Oh, I was in my 20s, mid-20s.
And so, did you recognize there's big revenue opportunities here? Was this the tipping point where you thought, okay, I think I might be onto something here?
We knew we were doing something different
Yeah.
and doing something that many weren't doing. So at that time, I was working for Digitas, which is the agency I was at. I was there for 13 years.
Wow.
And I was running Digitas Chicago.
Okay.
And so great job, great opportunity. I'd learned so much. I had aspirations of running the company at some point.
Yeah.
Like that was my path. And then I moved to Los Angeles. I worked for another agency running all of global strategy and e-commerce and digital blah, 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 blah. And I did that for just a year because then I got probably the next call that changed my life, which was Visa.
Okay.
And it was a big step for me because I was now leaving agency.
Right.
And I remember the CMO, who was my boss at the time, Antonio, he said, you do know that once you leave agency, you'll never go back.
Yes.
And I didn't really believe that.
Yeah.
But now I do, of course. I was like,
right.
Yeah, he's right. He was actually right.
Right.
And I had such a cool job. And I remember I said to him, I was like, it's so strange. Like everything I've ever done in my career seemed to be showing up in this job description. And he said, well, because we took your resume and we made the job description. So it was like the job for me.
Yeah,
it was
that's so amazing.
My job.
That's amazing.
So I owned brand strategy. I owned everything that had to do with a Visa card. I owned Visa.com and all in our internets and extranets. I owned marketing analytics, and I owned all of our sponsorships. So the Olympics and FIFA and NFL, Kentucky Derby. So it was just...
I've always wanted to know this. Is there a rival between Visa and MasterCard?
Yeah.
Are they rivals? Is it like Coke and Pepsi?
I mean, yeah, that's one of their biggest competitors, and Amex too.
Okay. Yeah. Because I have all of them in my wallet. I don't have
And that's a problem. So my whole job back then was for you to pull out your Visa card.
Okay.
We want to be top of wallet.
Yeah.
We wanted you to pull out your Visa card. And back then, so I was there, 2008 to 2010. One of our biggest competitors was cash.
Oh, I bet.
And
right?
checks.
Because think about it. In 2008, we couldn't get our cash out. Right? So everybody, stopped the credit card and went to cash? Was that what happened?
No, the issue is that we wanted you to use your credit card for everything. We didn't want you to have cash. So at the Visa cafeteria, they didn't accept cash. You could only pay by credit.
Yeah, now there's Zelle.
There's everything.
There's Venmo.
Right,
like Visa's
PayPal,
probably sweating bullets right now, right?
It's a lot of, but the interesting thing is a lot of these things run on the Visa network.
Right.
So they get paid anyway.
Right, they're fine. They're not sweating.
They're not sweating.
So you were a Visa, and then what happened at that point?
So I was running global marketing services, and then I was running global marketing innovation. So think of the future of payments.
Wow.
And
how fun.
It's a super cool job.
How fun.
And I was 4 weeks into the job, and I got a phone call from an executive recruiter who said, eBay's looking for a CMO and they want to speak to you.
And what size was eBay at that time? Because
it was huge.
It was huge.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was huge.
Okay.
We had 180 million active users.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so were you thinking, I'll take this call? Or
no, I was thinking eBay. That feels so yesterday.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
I know so many people whose entire livelihoods, I used to, right? Were eBay stores. This is pre-Shopify.
Of course.
So everybody thought, what can I do to make money from home? Of
course. So I said, you know what? I just started my new job. I've been in it for 4 weeks. And she said, well, I'm going to call you in a month because maybe you'll hate it.
Interesting.
So she called me in a month. And she said, every week I have to report out on the CMO search, and every week they ask me the progress with Richelle, and every week I tell them I've made no progress. And they were like, can you at least just speak to the head of the head of human resources? And so I spoke with her. Her name is Beth, and I just really liked her. I really liked her. I really liked the mission. I really liked the strategy. The company was in a turnaround.
Right.
The analysts had said, hey, all the value lives in PayPal, sell off that eBay thing. And, the leadership team and John, who was the CEO at the time, felt like we could turn this business around. And so every person I met, and I just kept meeting more and more people, they said the strategy verbatim, they all believed in it, and they thought that they could turn it around. And I just fell in love. I just fell in love with everything about it.
And were you one of how many on the C-suite at that time?
Oh, I mean, it was a bunch.
Yeah. And did you know at that point, did you feel like you were a powerhouse success? Like, had that tipping point happen for you from Visa?
Well, and it started at, so in the agency world, I was a success.
Right.
But that doesn't translate as, directly when you get to client side. At Visa, absolutely, I felt it, but I wasn't the CMO. Mm-hmm. And so now I was the CMO, and I felt it. I mean, there are lots of news articles written about me, and I was, named, in the top 10 best CMOs in the world.
Well, no, I'm going to brag for a second, okay? I hope you don't mind.
Okay.
But I need to take a minute because when I looked...
What do you have over there?
When I looked at your CV, first of all, I needed glasses because I was like, this is so impressive. I mean, all of your awards and all of the features on you and 50 most influential CMOs in the world. World's most influential CMO in 13, ranked 66. 29 of the most influential CMOs in 2012. Like year after year. You have most influential women in corporate America, 2019. From Savoy Magazine. How does that feel? Like, to me, that's kind of a big deal.
It is a big deal.
It's a big deal.
And I didn't work and live for those type of accolades, but it really is a big deal. And it helped me to truly understand that people were paying attention. And so my intentions needed to be in the right place. And it's very humbling for me. Like, these aren't things that I brag about, but I know that they're important. And I know that there are girls who look at this and think, I want to be that.
Right. I mean, it actually gave me goose skin. Okay. Because when I start reading this, I get emotional because I know you as who you are, but you have made a huge impact on the world. And I want people to understand how amazing you are. I know they already do, but I'm blown away when I see all of these accolades and all of these awards. It's like Power 300 Most Influential Black Corporate Director, 100 Most Influential Blacks in Corporate America, Top Women, Most Influential in Corporate America. It's like the list blows my mind.
Thank you.
So I'm honored that you're here, but I also can't wait for people to understand so you took your role at eBay.
Yeah.
What was your legacy there?
So you don't even know the weight that you just put into that question. So when I got to eBay, my first week, I was just spending time meeting other executives just to understand the things that they cared about. And I sat down with one woman and she said to me, our last CMO only lasted for a week. How long will you last?
Oh, wow. Okay. Welcome. So they have a culture problem, I'm assuming, at this point.
I'm not even going there. But
right.
My point is that at that moment, that's when I started to think about legacy. Because that legacy was, week or whatever, how long they were there. And that meant that legacy actually mattered.
Yeah.
And so every day at eBay, I thought about the fact that I was building my legacy.
Right.
Because I wanted to make sure that when I left, that no one said that.
Right.
That they actually could talk about the impact that I was able to make.
Right.
And so, what I tell people now is every day you're building your legacy. Every day someone is going to tell the story of you. And what do you want that story to be? Mm-hmm.
No kidding. And you spent 6 years there.
Yeah, 5 years. Yeah.
5 years. And in hindsight, what do you believe your legacy was? There were so many things. So I really spent a lot of time understanding our customers, so understanding the buyers, but also I spent so much time with our sellers. And to this day, if you look at my Facebook, so when I was at eBay, the majority of my Facebook friends were eBay sellers. And now I'd say 50% of my Facebook friends are eBay sellers. Wow. And I just wanted to understand them, understand their businesses, understand what mattered to them on the platform. And so
That was so important to me. When I got to eBay, believe it or not, we didn't have a CRM system. We had no CRM strategy. So that's one of the things that I built out there, which was so important to the future revenue of the business. I had one of the most diverse teams at eBay.
Beautiful.
From a leadership perspective.
Right.
That's so important.
Yeah.
There's so many things. So many.
Were you commuting up to the Bay Area, or did you live up there?
So I lived in Palo Alto, and and then my husband, who wasn't my husband at the time, but he was in LA, so I'd go to LA on the weekends.
Okay. And so were you feeling like this is why I came to because honestly, as someone who did not grow up through corporate, I always admire people who make it to the very top of the corporate echelon and ladder, because it's really like you have had to really stand out and make an impact, right?
That's true.
I mean, that there are probably, I'm going to guess, 3,000 qualified people or so for a potential slot, okay, in one of these companies, right? And so when I look at that, were you at that point in time calling mom and saying, hey, I kind of made it here. Check me out. Or was mom was she impressed? Was she not impressed? Were you thinking I made it and now, or did you think there was more to do?
I definitely thought there was more to do, but I was really trying to revel in that moment.
I bet.
I was on the cover of magazines, and so for my parents and for my family and for many people, of course, but that's a big deal. It was a big deal for me. I mean, I have friends who would be like, I have your magazine. Can you autograph it? I'm like, are you silly? You know me. I don't need to autograph it. But I was autographing magazines for my friends, people who I've known forever.
Right.
And so it was a big deal. It absolutely was a big deal. And I remember being in an interview, and I'd been, in my role, let's call it 6 months or so. And they're like, so what's next? And I'm thinking, I just got here.
Yeah.
I want to be in this.
Right.
Just for a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to be a CMO, and all of a sudden now I'm a CMO. So I wanted to be the best CMO I could be.
I bet.
And I wanted to also kind of groom the next group of CMOs. And so when I look now at my direct reports, so many of them are CMOs now. And I'm just so proud that I was a part of their legacy and a part of their story.
Right.
And so I enjoyed being in that role, and I enjoyed the influence that I was able to have and the impact that I was able to have.
And from a money perspective at that point, did you attribute more of a title and a place on the org chart as success, or did you see it also attributable to, okay, well, I've hit this certain money goal that I had, or this certain place that I needed or thought I would be, or stock, or whatever it is? It may not be an income, it may be, stock or whatever.
So I never had a money goal.
Yeah.
But I did realize that it wasn't always fair. Mm-hmm. So earlier, way before eBay, when I was leaving, one of the companies I was at, I don't want to out them, but I realized that I was grossly underpaid.
Wow.
Which is part of the issue of when you stay someplace too long.
Sure.
You're just getting incremental. Sure. And even if you get a big bump,
sure,
you may not be at market.
Sure.
And what I realized, and one of the things I tell women, is you have to know your worth. And so it's true. Not about money, it's about all of it.
Right.
It's about the total package.
Yeah.
And often women don't know their worth.
Right.
And I really believed at that time that if I work really hard, I will get compensated for it.
Sure.
And I made the assumption that I was being paid the same way my peers were being paid.
Right. Of course. Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't I?
Right.
Well, that's not how it works.
Right.
It's not how it works.
Right.
And some people lobby really hard to get more, and some people get really great packages when they walk in the door, and so all of those things. So now I pay attention to those things. I'm not guided by it, but I absolutely pay attention to it. You need to know your worth. You need to 100%. Know what your value is on the market.
For sure. And were you ever at a point there or anywhere where you had to walk in and say, hey, we need to have a comp discussion. This isn't working for me, or here's what I'm going to propose. I think a lot of women, once they're in the role and I only am bringing this out because I just recently had a very interesting conversation with someone who's running a very large, big company, realizing a very similar situation, that she's being paid far less than her predecessor. But she has the title, and now she's in the role. And she said, I don't know really how to manage this because I've been here for almost a year, and I'm making a third or fourth almost of what my predecessor made. And
was her predecessor a man?
Yeah. And she said, I don't really know how to handle this conversation. And I said, well, I think you handle it like you would handle any difficult conversation.
That's exactly right. And you know what? Bring data.
Right.
You got to bring data. Have some facts.
Right.
Well, I've been told a couple of times in my career, well, you get paid more than everyone else, or you're my highest. And I'm like, what does that mean?
Right.
Like, first of all, why are you telling me that?
Right.
Like, am I supposed to feel bad?
Right.
Like, why are you telling me? But I've been told that so many times. And I don't know if I'm being told that because I'm a woman, or if I'm being told that because I'm a black woman, or if I'm being told that because I'm black. Like, I don't know why you would feel like you should tell me that. But that's after me recognizing how important it is to know my worth.
Right. And that's what I said to her. I said, well, what you're about to execute is pretty important to the year.
Yeah.
If you don't execute, they don't make their year.
That's right.
Everything is underwritten by your EBITDA. So I think knowing your worth is really what the intrinsic feeling is of knowing that it's okay to walk away.
That's right.
Right? And that there's something else out there, or that you're making a transition emotionally to know I'm going to ride this out to whatever point I need to, and then know my worth and look for something else.
And you have to be at a point where you feel like you can walk away.
Right.
That's critical.
Right.
To just know that you can walk away.
Yeah.
I walked away. I know what it's like. It's
right.
very hard.
It is hard.
But it's sometimes it's the right decision.
Yeah. So when you left eBay, then you joined the investment world. Right?
I actually took a break.
Oh, good.
I took a 1 year break that ended up being a year and a half.
Okay.
It was awesome.
That's so nice. I haven't done that yet. I really would look forward to that at some point.
Well, so I have a personal board of directors, and one of my members of my personal board of directors called me about a month into my break, and he said, "So, how's it going?" And I said, "It's going great." And he said, "Do you check your phone every day?" And I said, "I do." He said, "Do you check it every morning?" And I said, "I do." He said, "Then you're not on your break."
Wow. Okay.
And he said, "Don't make the mistake I made. Don't rush back." He said, "I know that you're going to be afraid and you're going to feel like people are going to forget you, or you won't get the next job, or whatever it is." He's like, "Trust me, people will remember you. Take your break."
Good for him. That was great advice.
And I'd say like every other month, every 3 months, I'd be a nervous wreck. Like, oh, what if I never work again? What if? And then I'd remember why I'm on my break. And so I took a lot of phone calls. I'd meet people, and when you're the CMO of eBay, you can't like let people take you to lunch. I let people take me to lunch. I'd love to take you to lunch and pick your brain. I'd love to take you to breakfast and pick your brain. I did a lot of pick your brain meetings.
Smart.
So I'm sitting down. I'll have a great lunch. I tell them everything I know, and then I can leave. No commitment. It's done.
Great.
And so I did a bunch of that, and
Good.
that helped me to kind of start to think about what I wanted to do next.
Right.
I hung out in Martha's Vineyard. I was there for like 6 months.
Nice.
I'd never been at my house in Martha's Vineyard for 6 months ever.
Nice.
So it was great. And so I just took a break.
That sounds
And frankly, when I started to interview again, my thesis was I was looking for CEO opportunities, or I was looking for president or COO opportunities that lead to CEO. And frankly, if it was a CMO opportunity, it had to be better than the one I had. And frankly, I had the best CMO job in the world.
Right.
And so I really wanted something bigger, better, or fresher, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And so I just wasn't finding anything.
And in terms of the impact you're making on the investing side, at least on the private equity side, was that a big eye-opener for you to see the private equity world and join a private equity firm as to how they look at business? And
yeah, so I never expected to be on the investing side of things. I sort of just landed in it. It was really interesting. I met this guy, David. He showed up at one of my talks. He was the founder of Camden Partners. And he's like, hey, I'd love to figure out working together. And, 7 months later, I was working at Camden Partners, and it was interesting. It was great to see that side of business and understand, how you think about these companies and investing and what the future looks like and how do you set up these companies for success. I mean, as an operator, I know how to build and scale companies. And so I really use that lens for investing around, how do I help these companies to grow. And so it was different. I don't see myself as a traditional investor. I take a completely different lens to it, but it's fun. The companies that I've invested in and the companies that I've worked with, I just enjoy helping.
Yeah, I think now that I've taken in private equity funds into my own business, and I understand what the mandate or the edict is from the LPs into the PE fund, and then how they then deploy capital and they assess, and then, just performance and increase in revenue and expectations. It's not always about the financial decisions. Right. And I think being an entrepreneur, leading a business, and having to make what I think are good business decisions for the business that are sometimes not necessarily in line with great financial results on the immediate. Yeah. That's the tension. Really, I think it's a learning as to how to build something, produce financial results, and look at it from the long-term perspective as an entrepreneur. It's like, but my PE folks that are on my business are great resources for me. Great.
And that's what it should be.
It's like they are the smartest people who come in and say, well, this is how these 4 portfolio businesses have done it prior. Here are some resources. And I think, oh my gosh, this is the best part of it.
Well, the thing is like, to me, that says that you picked the right PE firm.
Right.
Right. Like people who actually do care about your business, who want to help to support you.
Yes.
And to help you to think about your business in a different way.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's incredible. So when I think about someone like you, an entrepreneur, who, has had incredible success, like, that's not easy.
It's not.
It's not easy.
No.
And I've never done what you do.
Yeah.
I've never done what you do. Yeah. It's incredible.
It is, and it isn't, right? It's one day at a time, but it's, I have a real respect for the side of those private equity folks who have to just report numbers, right? But that's not necessarily always business, right?
It's not.
Look at COVID. Well, it just hit us, like a freight train.
Right.
Out of nowhere.
Well, so the benefit I have is, as a marketer, I tell stories.
Yes.
And I love to tell the stories. And so that's the lens that I put on what I do as an investor, is really understanding the story of where you've been, but where you're going, and what that journey needs to look like, and who needs to be on that journey with you. So I've been able to use my network to fill great positions. I've been able to get people on to help to just consult for a little bit, or I've been able to help, whatever it is. But it's because I know how to operate a company.
That's right. That's so
but
unique.
I'm not a founder, right?
Right.
Or I am, technically I am, but
yeah, you are.
Something.
Yeah.
But I don't run the company day to day.
Right. But you understand what it takes.
Yeah, I do.
You really do. So I have some interesting stats here on investing, and I just want to get your perspective as now with your investor hat on.
Yeah.
So the good news is in 2019, Become reported that 13 million businesses in the United States are women-owned, which is 42% of all business. So 13 million is 42%. That's great. Women are well represented. And they're growing at a rate of 5%. But this is where the good news ends. Mm-hmm. So what was shocking to me in the numbers is only 4.2% of businesses that are women-owned and run are ever exceeding $1 million in revenue a year. Mm-hmm. So I think what I'm reading is many of these businesses are undercapitalized, and as a result, they're not getting the capital they need to grow, and so they have a difficult time scaling, and they never hit the $1 million mark. And I'm sure in your investing, wearing your investment hat and looking at investing, is there a personal passion, or how do you wrestle with that?
So those numbers are devastating and sad. And those that you put the women lens on it, and then you put the person of color lens on it, it's even worse.
Yeah.
And so, the reason I'm at the company I'm at now, West River Group, is because we built diversity right into our strategy.
Yes, up front.
Right up front. So each one of our sectors is co-led by a man and a woman. And then you fast forward to George Floyd, and we recognize how important it is to actually speed this train up and really think about total diversity, not just gender, but ethnic diversity and also diversity of thought. And frankly, we want to create change. We want to be, the type of company and the type of investors who are doing something different, meaning investing in those folks that aren't getting the money. Like it's so important to change that. We talk a lot about, we truly believe that if you have diverse people allocating capital, they will allocate to diverse teams.
That's right. And
that's so important. And
how cool is that?
It is cool. So my whole career, at least as an executive, that the majority of my career, I focused on women and diversity. So at Visa, I ran our Black Affinity Group. At eBay, I ran our women's network. And at Camden Partners, he focused so much on diversity, particularly of ethnic diversity. And at West River, again, it's built into the strategy. So I'm always drawn to that. And I remember when John Donahoe, right before he made me the offer at eBay, he said, "And I'm starting a women's network, and I want you to lead it for North America." Like he threw me that as another carrot, as an opportunity to come to eBay. And so, I want to be able to make a difference. I want to be able to create change.
Yep.
And, and frankly, the change happens at the top.
Yeah, it sure does. It
has to happen at the top, and then it filters through.
Yeah. So I can't wait. If anyone wants to catch westrivergroup.com, is that how they find out more about West River Group?
It's wrg.vc.
.vc. And is it a VC? Fund?
Venture capital.
Oh, okay. So you left private equity. Now you're on the VC side. Yeah. So how fun. You're getting to do this all across the board. So, and Richelle, if people want to find you, how do they find you? What are your social handles, or do you
all my social handles just say my name. Frankly, if you just put my name in any of the social networks, you're going to find me.
Okay. Okay, good. So we have a couple quick fire questions. This is just one word. And this is going to be a way forward because I think I think these are really interesting.
So I'm answering with one word?
Yeah. Or yes or no, or one word, or you could elaborate.
Okay. All right.
If it's yes, but.
All right. We'll see where we get.
Okay. So what time do you wake up each morning?
6 a.m.
Do you work out?
Yes. I have a hydro. I love it.
I don't know what that is, but I want one.
It's a rower. So I'm not a good biker. Peloton would never be the answer for me.
Yeah.
But imagine all the wonderfulness of, coaches and trainers and great music, but put it on a rowing machine.
Okay.
It's called Hydro. It's beautiful. It's sleek. And I named mine. My Hydro's name is Harlow.
Oh,
so
wow.
I was on Harlow this morning before seeing you.
Oh my gosh. Okay. And how many times a week do you work out?
I try to get on Harlow 3 to 4 times a week.
Okay. Do you meditate?
I don't.
Okay.
I'm so envious of your morning ritual. I gotta tell you, I really am, and I'm working through it.
Yeah, and it's a work in progress, and you can start any day. We can practice together. I can show you a couple thoughts that work for me. But I'm like you. I mean, I'm a go. So it was a big shift. Do you watch TV?
I do.
Okay. Do you have a favorite show?
So I'm so old school. Like I like comfort.
Yeah.
And so I watch I Love Lucy. I love Lucy so much. She brings me so much laughter and joy. And I watch things that I've seen a million times.
Yeah.
And I love Hallmark. I watch a lot of Hallmark.
You're one of their 3 viewers.
They have a lot of viewers.
No, I'm kidding.
They have a lot of viewers.
I know. It's such a sweet.
But it's happy ending.
Yeah, it's always a happy ending. That's so sweet. I love that. Richelle, you're the best. How many languages do you speak, including English?
So enough to get by in those countries?
Yeah.
Okay, 3.
Okay.
4.
4? Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm going to travel with you if that's okay.
Come on.
And do you believe in aliens?
I do think there's some other life forms. So I think the answer is yes.
Me too. And what has been your favorite age? If you could pick one year that was just magical for you, what year was that?
So I'm enjoying right now. So I'll put that out there. I'm enjoying right now.
Yeah.
But 30 was probably my best year.
Okay.
I had so much fun.
Yeah.
I had 2 birthday parties. It was just a blast.
30 was so good. I know.
But there's a lot of things I would tell my 30s self.
So what is it?
Number 1, like that amazing body that I had.
Yes.
Like, you actually have to take care of it.
Yes.
It doesn't just stay that way.
That's right.
And I wish I'd known that.
Yeah. I'd known that. Yeah. That's a biggie.
It's a huge one.
Right?
Because when you're 40, you're fighting it. You're like, what happened? And you don't know what happened.
Yeah.
And so like the 30s, like I just wish I'd paid attention.
Yeah.
And didn't take it for granted.
And to any entrepreneurs or women out there that are listening who are on their career path, is there any piece of advice or something you would say to think through or to remember or to wake up in a success secret or tip for yourself that works that you could share with them?
I do believe you have to have a goal. Mm-hmm. You don't need to know how you're going to get there, but you absolutely need to have a goal.
Right.
And then you need to find people who can help you to get there. And you should remember that the path isn't always straight ahead. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it does veer off, but if you have the goal, you will get there.
Right.
You absolutely will get there. You have to just find those people who can support you on your journey or introduce you to people you need to know, whatever it is, but have a goal.
That's
just
right.
Put it out there.
Cool. Do you have a Pinterest account?
I do.
Okay. I do my goals on my Pinterest account. Sometimes I just put visual pictures. It really helps me.
You have a goals mood board.
I do.
I love that.
Isn't that fun?
See, I'm going to adopt that too.
Oh, it's so fun. Well, thank you so much for being here. It means the world. And there's so many women that I believe really will listen and hear this and say, okay, this is like the passion and the spirit and the insight I needed to get through my busy, crazy day today and know that there's tomorrow and I can do this.
Well, I love you so much and I just admire you. And I love what you're doing and you're doing this for women.
Yeah.
And that's what's so important is that you're giving back and helping women to understand the journeys of others so you can understand your own journey.
Yes.
I love it.
That's so well said.
Thank you for tuning in to From Potential to Powerhouse, Success Secrets from Female Leaders with your host, Tracy Holland.